You don't want my speaker.
Big one.
Wait over.
Numbers 1 through 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7, 8.
7, 8, 7.
Oops.
No, I gotta figure this out. Give me a second. Shut my microphone off. Shut my speaker. Okay, does that better? Good, I'm not hearing myself. Okay. Are 2 pages? Are we 2 pages there or no? Nice.
I think just on your screen, I don't see any errors.
Yeah, I think.
No, that's fine. Oh, no, I fixed it. Okay. Mine was the setting. All right. Ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Ready to go.
Time my agenda. Yeah. Did you give us no that?
I have one.
Okay.
Are you going?
Okay. Okay, we're gonna call the Shutesbury Select Board meeting to order for July 7th, 2026. So the first thing I wanted to announce is those coming in for speaking at the LWAC. We have a list for anyone who wants to make a comment. It's just to make it efficient for us here in the room and with on Zoom to be able to coordinate the two together. So if you'd like to make a comment related to the LWAC restructuring, please put your name on the list and sign up if you're in the room. It helps our administrative assistant with his minutes and our record keeping that we're required to do. Okay, yes.
Is the sign of public comment for select boards true? Or
No, it's just, this is just the LWAC topic later on.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so let's review the agenda. We have public comment for general business first. Then general business, we have to approve our minutes for July 1st, 2026. And then about 5:05 PM, we have the National Grid poll hearing. Was going to be for Pelham Hill Road and Pratt Corner Road, but Stephen and I just had a little sidebar and Pratt Corner Road, they're taking off. That's been redone in a different way. So we're only going to have the poll hearing for Pelham Hill Road. Then the appointment of town clerk position, our discussion on that. Vote to lift the emergency and to restore public access to Lake Loyola Dam. Review and sign the dry hydrant license agreement that outlines usage of McAvoy Pond by Shutesbury, specifically for water for our firefighting team. Review and sign the Kestrel Land Trust conservation restrictions, one for Montague Road and one for the former Coles property on Poverty Mountain. Discuss plans for a 5-minute speech for MWRA board. Eric, what does that stand for?
Massachusetts Water Resources Authority.
On July 10th, and then public comment, Lake Loyola Advisory Committee, as well as a joint meeting and discussion with the current ad hoc LWAC committee. So that's our agenda. So why don't we open up for public comment? If you'd like to make a public comment related to general business, not the LWCA portion of the meeting, please use the raised hand feature on the screen, and anyone who would like to public comment, use your raised hand feature here in the room. Okay. I saw Michael DeCare first and then Tracy. Okay, go ahead. Michael. Remember, not for LWAC. This is just general business.
I know. It's about the poll hearing. So you want me to wait, or is it okay to do it now?
Do you mind? Well, is it about? We just changed up the poll hearing. It's only for Pelham Hill. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I will say just generally speaking, I get that you just shifted from Pratt Corner, but what I would recommend is given how poorly the Pratt Corner implementation went, and I got to call out, Devin did a great job of trying to help facilitate communication. But from what I understand, the communication from the contractor that's working for National Grid has been terrible. And it's resulted in, like last Monday, no one got their mail because the post truck couldn't get through. And they had two trucks, so depending on where they were, you had two blockades. And so it won't be the same issue on Pelham Hill because there's two lanes. But I think what the select board might want to think about is getting written commitments from National Grid in terms of how they implement with their vendor, because it's not just about doing the poles or removing trees. It's about the actual, doing the work. And like on Pratt Corner, as an example, it's going to take place for a month. And when they block the road, it's like for me, if I pull out of my driveway, I don't know if I go left or right to get to an open way to get off of Pratt Corner. Like there's no information about where it's getting implemented. And so, I've talked to Devin and I've talked to Haley and all that's fine. But I guess my suggestion would be, as you're considering poll hearings with National Grid, pushing them a little bit because they're not doing the work. Their contractors are. And their contractors have to be communicating with so that's my comment, if that's helpful.
It is. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Tracy, I saw your hand, non-LWAC related.
So I wanted to ask, in order to support our police department in policing fireworks, namely at the lake, I'd like to have it, I'm asking that if you put on a future agenda in the near future, to discuss few ideas that possible, like committee formed to come up with alternates to traditional fireworks, like a drone show or a laser show. But something's got to be done because it's completely out of hand in a residential neighborhood. And with more than 50% of the lake community now being year round, it's really quite upsetting.
Thank you. Any other public comments before we reach our regular agenda? Okay. All right. Let's move on to the minutes for July 1st, 2026. Do you have your motion?
You hear a motion to approve the
Sure.
minutes for July 1st, not the 26th.
I'm sorry.
July 1st, I move to approve the minutes as written. A second.
All right. Did either of you have any corrections or edits to punctuation?
Look good.
All right. All those in favor?
Docker, aye. Walton, aye.
Make peace on the way. Thank you. And the next is our poll hearing for National Grid just on Pelham Hill Road. Steve, do you want to come up here for us? Thank you. Would you introduce yourself?
Steve Susi, National Grid. I don't know if you want me to read or,
I'll give a little bit of information while you're getting organized.
Yeah.
here. So a poll hearing when National Grid has to add a pole or change installations or such, they come to the select board and they talk about it, let us know what's going on, some background information, why they need it. And so that's the process we're going through now.
yeah, so,
Where and
yeah, so it's about reading verbatim. Basically, National Grid is petitioning to install new pole 9-75 in between, just about exactly, between the existing poles 9 and 9-50, splitting up the long span, and we will put some more radio equipment on that, which will be used to read the new automated AMR meters that are coming out and being installed, if not now, within the next couple of years. So this is a necessary step. We need to read the, meters through radio waves and get more updated information, because once everything is complete, then you'll have more, there'll be computerized meters, and then you can download your usage on an hourly basis, daily basis. There'll be a lot more information available to customers and a lot more information to us during outages, where we can go, wow, these people are out automatically, we know, instead of waiting for someone to call.
Okay. And it was just the one pole you were.
Yeah, just one pole in between that, which would be near 102 Pelham Road, or just south of that.
Does the board have any questions? Go ahead, Mary. I'm going to select board first, Mary Lou, and then I'll get to you. Yeah, do you have any questions? Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out where that is. I mean, is it, we've approved something and found out later it's sort of in somebody's front yard and they're not happy with it, or that type of thing.
Yeah, this is south, probably, because it's like 150 feet. Pole 9 is kind of like that, the driveway of 102 Leverett Road, so 150 feet south of that. So it's just woods.
Right, okay, good.
Okay, good job.
You mentioned this equipment for reading meters.
They'll help on that, yeah.
There's one pole. This is part of a project across the town.
There'll be, I'm sure we're installing these all around town. We needed a new pole set for this. I'm sure they'll be putting on existing poles.
Or the existing poles for all the other ones?
Yeah, and we shall see. I'm sure there will be others as they go through that project, and if there's something they need, they'll be petitioning town saying, hey, we need a new pole to set in this spot. Just like kind of regular cell phone coverage, these will be on our poles, so we have a lot more poles, but they'll be all around different neighborhoods and strategic spots in order to read all the meters.
And you think mentioned the timing is roughly a couple of years for that?
That will be to get all the meters in every home in Massachusetts.
But just thinking for this town.
I'm not sure what the schedule is, but this would be in prepping for that.
Okay.
And I know they're starting in different towns in Worcester. They started it then, and they'll slowly go to other districts.
Okay, thanks.
Haley, did you have any questions?
There's no need to close a road or interrupt trash or mail pickup service.
No, on Pelham wide, in this particular spot, the pole is gonna be 10 feet off the road. So the road won't be completely shut down.
Days it takes to do that.
This will be one pole being set. I don't know how long if they're gonna set the pole, transfer wires, then leave, and then someone else comes over and puts all the radio equipment on the meter, on the pole, I mean, but that should be, because it's only one pole, I'm assuming total like a day.
Okay.
And that may not be all at once, but this here is like 12 feet off the road, 11, 12 feet. It's being set in line with the other poles, so there's enough room where if we do need, a police, it would just be one police officer, and the road won't be completely blocked.
Okay, so it's a short detail then.
One
Yeah.
last question has this been coordinated with our broadband committee, do you know? Do you know if that's,
No, I have no idea,
yeah, because
but it would be, this whole project here of getting all the meters. I'm sure this is all throughout the state.
right,
So it's not just us, it's every utility.
I
I'm
mean,
sure we have our own separate broadband.
this, in other words, it's assuming you're gonna add this, we're gonna have to take our broadband wires off of, put them on the new pole and all that stuff.
We would go through the normal pole transfer
Okay.
process. It will be in line.
Okay,
So, it wouldn't be that, it would follow the process, and then, we would have, Verizon install their wires and notify them, and then, cable for us to then Verizon.
yeah. Okay,
Ellie, let's have Brendan make sure I'll have Brendan send that to Gail. Just so she knows it's coming along the.
But this is a mid-span pole, so the wires are already there.
Right, right.
You're just attaching them so they don't like slam
Right.
up against it during the storm and
Okay, that's
ruin the
good.
covering.
Okay.
So it's, no one has to really install new wires, it's just fastened to new pole.
Okay, that's simple enough.
Okay. Is it okay I'll open it to the public now? Mary Lou,
Mary Lou Conker.
stand up and speak louder.
Okay, so, and gentlemen, please elaborate on reading the meters. What kind of meters are they? Like a smart meter? And what is the meter's relationship to 5G or 6G or 7G or?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what frequency we have and but this is all through the state that, we'll be able to read all the meters remotely. Right now we have we've always had it for the past over 2 decades. There would be like radio frequencies and we had to pick them up off the truck. Now with all these meters in the radio wave equipment or cell phone equipment that we'll put in, we'll just be at an instant, be able to get a reading from the meter. But that's all the way through the state. I don't know which band or frequency we specifically are at, but I'm sure this is done with the state that we have one frequency range and that's for that equipment.
Where are these meters you're talking about? So my,
There'll be meters in the same existing meter socket. So and I don't know where the program is in this town, but it was, say, a 3 or 4 year plan to make sure every meter in National Grid is now upgraded to these smart meters unless there is a provision that people wanted to opt out. They
Those
could
are the
have.
ones that are on our house, Mary Lou.
so.
Those are the meters on our houses.
Yeah, it's in you.
To the 5G, 6G, 7G, who knows that is?
I don't know what the specifics about what frequency.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions for Steve? Or Cole? So we have to vote, to accept the poll or permit the poll to be put in. So do I hear a motion for the poll that Steve outlined, the locations Steve outlined?
So moved.
A second.
All right. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Stock eye.
Well, tonight.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Thank you very much. Thank you. Do you have anything we need to find at this point or
No, that will be
later?
done later. Yeah. Thank you.
Moving on to the next topic, which is the appointment of the town clerk position. So, the part of the reason for our May 1st meeting was to interview 2 wonderful candidates for our town clerk position, Calvin Ellison and Damon Herring. Both of which have history with Shrewsbury. So, the next step for them was to supply the references to you
Yes.
and you doing the reference checks. Were you able to complete that?
I was able to complete the reference checks. Calvin had emailed me his 3 and I phoned them, and then Damon had sent in some letters, all of which have forwarded to you. So what you have in your packet is an offer letter with the name that's blank. Just spells out what the position is, the hours, the pay, some of the key responsibilities, a little bit about our benefits package, and of course, the statement that the offer letter is not a contract, and that it's contingent upon successful background check. All the board has to do is just decide on who you'd like to appoint, and I'll update the letter and get it sent out.
Okay. How would we like to discuss the candidates? Do we want to do them one by one, or how would you two like to do that?
I think, excuse me, I think we can just nominate one of them to do it. I don't-
Okay. All right. Do I hear a nomination, Eric, then?
You do. What's Mr. Ellison's first name? I'm sorry.
Calvin.
Calvin, yes, Calvin. I would nominate Calvin.
Okay.
Also.
Second
Do I
that.
hear a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any further questions or discussions?
I just thought he was really good. I thought Damon was good too. I'm not, we were lucky and embarrassment of riches as we
Right.
usually have these things. But my sense is that Calvin was just a better candidate.
Do you have any?
Yeah, I'd say the same. I thought it's at the interview, the letters, the background, resume, fits, excellent fit. It's a really good fit for what he's trying to do and what we need.
And I too, the both candidates, either one of them could have certainly done the position. Thank you, Haley and Chief Pelletier for interviewing the first round of candidates. That was fantastic and giving us two really good and hard picks. to do.
Yeah,
So
I'd also say
appreciate that.
Damon has a lot of energy about wanting to be involved with the town and supporting
Yeah.
town, and we've got appointments coming, all types of select committees and whatnot. I think he'd be great. Couple of these.
And that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so with that, I too also enjoyed Calvin's enthusiasm for records management. And
Yes.
even good,
No.
which can be tedious, but it was definitely a passion for records management, so. So with that, all in favor of appointing Calvin Ellison, our town clerk,
Stalker Eye.
Well, tonight.
make peace in your life. So you'll finish the letter and.
I'll get that sent out.
Perfect. And you'll let us know anything else we need to know. Perfect, thank you. Okay. So now, is our potential vote to lift the state of emergency and restore public access to the dam. Haley, why don't you fill us in and then I'll take the last.
So way back last Thanksgiving, when Walter Tibbetts had noticed the sinkholes around the dam, we had declared a state of emergency, which did a couple of things. It allowed the town to deficit spend, and it also allowed us to move forward more quickly with the repair project. So as readers of the Friday Five will know, it's been an ongoing process, but we finally have reached the full level, the summer pool at Lake Wyola, and we have confirmed with our engineering team and the state that the repair work, the emergency repairs were successful. And so they have basically said that we can now, because of that those have taken effect, we can lift the state of emergency. And then just as a disclaimer, there was always going to be the second step after the emergency portion, which is that we anticipate the State Office of Dam Safety will ask us to do a more in-depth assessment on the structural integrity of the dam. But at least for the time being, we've cleared the hurdles that we need to, and we can lift the state of emergency.
Thank you. Thank you for all that and all that work. Walter, for finding the issue and everyone who contributed to getting that repair done swiftly and the lake up to summer level by summer. Yes.
Yeah, right.
We weren't
We
sure where
made
it was going to go. So the one piece that I'm that I think we're gonna hold off on is restoring public access to the Lake Wyola Dam. Because for some reason in my memory, I remember we talked about it and I thought we had closed it off to, Eric, remind me if I might be remembering this incorrectly. Closed it off to public access because of walking across the private owner's land.
You mean, did we
prior.
do that now for this?
No, not for this, but I think we had prior at least discussed it. So I want to hold off on restoring the public access until we look back, and I had a regular long work day today, so I wasn't able to check myself.
Yeah, I think, I don't
We've
think,
discussed it many times.
I know
but I
it's been
can't remember if
discussed,
we
and I know
voted.
the
Yeah.
town meeting and got voted. Yeah, I think I'm
I just
okay
want to
with,
hang off.
I'm
and
okay
make
with
sure
doing
we
it that
look,
way.
make sure we are
That's
gonna
fine.
undo something we did. And so why don't we take the first part and vote on the state of emergency, and then at the next meeting, we'll take up the restore the public access if
Okay, I move that we vote to lift the state of emergency on the Lake Wyola Dam.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Stocker, aye.
Walton, I.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. So that's the next one. All right, so now it's review and sign the dry hydrant license agreement for the McAvoy Pond for a firefighter training.
This will also need to be tabled, so we sent a copy of the agreement to our town council, who had some suggestions, and now it's at their town council, but who has not had a chance to fully review it. So until all the lawyers have had their say, we have to table it till some later date.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then moving right along, review and sign the two Kestrel Trust conservation restrictions, one for Brown Montague Road and the other for the former Bulls land on Poverty Mountain.
Yes, and I thought there would be someone from Kestrel.
There is.
You left.
Thank you.
Hi.
So I can give you an introduction. I don't know how much you know about it.
Like,
Okay.
especially.
Sure. So there's two properties in Shutesbury that Kestrel's been involved in lately. One, 200 acres, formerly owned by the Brown family on Montague Road, where the old the pond. Someone can tell me the name of the pond.
Round pond,
Round.
Thank you.
cleverly enough.
So Kestrel has owned that land for about a year. We bought that through a state government grant and a couple of other private funds, and we're donating a conservation restriction over it, a second layer of protection, to the New England Northeast Wilderness Trust. So that's one of the conservation restrictions. The second one is Coles recently donated some land to the trustees of reservation, a statewide land trust. Kestrel more or less just operates in the valley. And the trustees is donating a conservation restriction, again, a secondary layer of protection over that land to Kestrel Land Trust. So Kestrel will hold that one. So two different conservation restrictions, one about 200 acres, one about 140. They will both be forever wild forest. There won't be any commercial harvesting. There can be habitat management and a few things. Happy to talk about specifics if anyone's got any specific questions.
First, the select board, Mary.
I'm also
Do you have a question? Do you have any questions? You're good? Mary Lou? Mary Lou?
Mary Lou. Oh, yes, sorry. Are you saying Kestrel? Kestrel?
Yep, like the bird, Kestrel.
Yep, and are you the ones who put in that boardwalk?
In
The-
Brightwater Bog in, yep.
And did they use treated wood?
I'm the wrong person to ask that. I can find someone to talk to you about it. There could even be metal poles into the ground, but yeah, I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
I'll connect with you.
Yeah. Happy to. Yeah, I'll give you a code.
Should we take them one by one then? Do I hear a motion to review, to sign the Kestrel Trust for the Brown / Montague Road location?
So moved.
Second.
Right? All those in favor?
Stocker, aye.
Walton, I.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. And the second one, do I hear a motion for the Coles land on Poverty Mountain?
So moved.
Second.
Right? All those in favor?
Stocker, aye.
Walton, I.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Do you have those for us this time?
I do.
Is it one or three?
Just, I can't remember if all three of you or just one.
It's all three. One of them is about page 23. Oh, good. Thank you.
Very good.
Peter, on the-
Oh, we'll have to fix that.
Yeah.
We can
I
write
got-
that out.
My version does too.
It was a pretty recent change.
It was. Yep. You said we could, what did you say, Haley?
Could always white it out.
Okay. Jim, go ahead and sign here and we'll fix that after.
Okay.
Sign is Rita Farrell.
Yeah. Yeah, while you're signing it, I'm gonna remember to grab my chart. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so now let's talk about the 5 minutes. We're all set. Oh, I'm sorry.
Both of them?
I moved on.
Um,
You want, it's not to get it notarized.
okay. All right, yeah, I can pick that up another time. Thank you.
Ready for you.
Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
So we'll discuss the speech for MWRA.
Yes. Brennan will put the speech up on in a second. And I've just drafted something for you, three of you to review. So we've done everything we need to do to get the Quabbin Equity Resolution submitted to the MWRA, and we have got a spot on their agenda. So Joe Comerford has asked us to prepare by choosing 1 to 3 representatives to give a 5-minute speech. And so up at the top, we have to pick our 3 people, and then I've divided the speech into, the context, the local impact, and then the solution and what we're asking for. Obviously, we can go off script, we can add and change, but I thought it'd be helpful to go into it with just some kind of a framework for the conversation. And then we just have to pick who's gonna go. And I know Eric and Melissa, I think you have conflicts.
Yeah, I have to work.
Certainly Jim and I can do it. And I don't know if you think that there'd be an appropriate third person.
Uh,
The one that's-
Elaine Paleo said she could do whatever. She could be the third person, I would think.
Okay.
I see a hand raised over there. Okay,
Okay.
so do you want to coordinate if Elaine can't, with Micah? Wanna,
Is that
I think that works.
Michael, the
Michael.
alternate,
Michael,
if Elaine can't?
yeah, we'll do that one.
And then I guess, Jim, would you rather, what position do you play? You're gonna be opener,
1, 2, or
closer?
3?
Yeah.
Um, oh,
Perfect.
well, let me just, scale of the it's really, okay, scale of the contribution is the local burden. And it is
Yeah,
the
and so,
call to action.
Mhm. Well, here, you think
Yeah,
about
I'm
it,
good.
and
I'm
I
good.
can highlight, so
Yeah.
for people who don't know about the legislation, what it is it's giving Quabbin communities a seat at the table. So the MWRA is the board that controls, the stewardship, as they call it, of the Quabbin area. And so for the MWRA, they say, thank you very much, Shutesbury, for your land, and they give us a very small pilot payment. And in contrast, communities in the eastern part of the state get much bigger pilots. And when you think about the fact that for about 43% of the population in Massachusetts, they drink Quabbin water, and we don't have any seats on their board, and we don't, see the exact language. The pilot payment does not reflect the true value of our land, and it certainly doesn't reflect the fact that we have a great deal of state-owned land that cannot be developed, cannot be turned into housing, and represents no significant economic impact for the town, which then means that all the property tax burden falls upon residents primarily. It's a really important piece of legislation, and we thank Joe Comerford and her team for that. And that's why it's so important to have the representation, because we want a strong, robust showing at this meeting so that people know in a way that's a very similar to what we're doing here tonight, that we want to hear from people. We want to hear from all the stakeholders in the Quabbin area about the impact that it has, and we want to advocate for some more fair treatment for our community. And so that's what we're going to be doing. And if you still want to go second, that's cool.
Yeah, either, yeah, that's two's good.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like being the closer.
Yeah.
I'll have you know, you'll back up, all right.
And I think, and I think it's important, it's nice the way you've done this because it includes three of us. We stick to our 5-minute commitment and it flows.
Okay.
So it's, like the way you put this together. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all she wrote.
Okay,
I'll,
that was,
Elaine.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Haley, you may have had this in your minutes or your notes, but is there a link with a pre-populated letter that we can just cut and paste and send to the representative?
So, in a previous, I think it might be too late, but although they say it's never too late. In one of the Friday Fives, and I can resend it as a town announcement, there was a link to provide public. So there's not a public comment period at the meeting, but they can public can write in. And I can send that back out if people would like. I'd be happy to do that.
They're not.
I'm not really clear about it is. To show support?
To this one, so,
Yeah, I can.
It's
so,
online.
The three entrances to the Quabbin.
Yeah.
The first one is the main, it's like an office building kind of a structure. I believe it's in there.
yes, and it'll also be online. So there's also a Zoom link, so if it's more convenient.
We're showing that was.
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I do believe
Yeah.
so. Yeah, this is, I think, the first time that board has come to this area, which again is ironic given the water comes from, but
Right.
neither here nor there. So yes, I do think that would be helpful.
Oh, Melissa, can I speak to that for a second?
Yes, you can.
Most definitely will be, because it's two things. One is sending the MRA board sort of a message that the Quabbin towns are paying attention with care, but also Joe Comerford filed the legislation to be able to increase pilot and get us a seat at the table. So it's sort of reciprocating her to say, we've got back up here.
Yeah, there will be some meetings coming up about, increasing pilot money too, that we can all go to.
Yeah.
That, well, no, maybe we'll get to Friday Five and get the information. People should go to those too.
Great. You don't need us to vote or anything on this.
No, we're good.
Okay. All right. We'll put it on our agenda to report back next time.
Yes, we'll have an update.
All right. We're gonna move on to public comment and the joint meeting with the LWAC Advisory Committee. So we're gonna do this in anyone who came in late, we have a sign-in sheet if you'd like to make a public comment, just to help us with coordinating with a Zoom and in the room. And so you won't have to hold your hands up for so long. And if you came in late and did get a chance and would like to make a comment, go ahead and write on that now and do sign into the sign-in sheet so that Brennan can have help in his minutes and be able to make sure everybody's in our open records.
People speak up so everybody can hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, hold on one second. Noreen, do you mind bringing that over when you're done?
Not at all.
Thank you.
Let me go to the Zoom. Yeah.
Turn off the fan in there.
Oh, yeah, and I'm gonna wanna see how you do that. I have my moment.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, really. I never knew either.
I thought that's where the fan was.
Now we know what goes on back there.
Yeah, really. There's a lot of stuff back there.
I just supposed to see when.
Would that do it though? I still hear.
Sure, to some extent.
Hopefully not.
Okay, let's see. Oh. Want to take some?
So you have the link?
I have this, yeah, I see. Okay, public comment. Can I get those that are online, if you'd like to make a public comment, can you put your hands up now, just so I can see how many there are? Who'd like to make a public comment on Zoom? Okay, I'll keep checking back. And then when we see hands go up, we'll alternate between the two. Okay. All right, so how we're gonna work this is, I think what we're going to do, I have to ask my fellow select board members if this is okay. It's my suggestion, is, rather than making any grand decisions tonight on this, I think listening to the comments of the public and listening to the comments of the current LWAC members and gathering that together and giving us a chance to think about what we've heard. And then maybe come back at our next meeting or a special meeting to make those decisions going forward, if you two feel okay with that.
That's okay.
Yep.
Good?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
If some people send things in, will those be included with what you're just speaking of, send in emails?
We will not read them,
Read them, but
but
they
they
have
will,
them.
yes, yeah, email, anything sent to the select board on any topic is always right, yeah. So when you send something, since everyone is, so many people are here, I should let everybody know. When you send something to shrewsbury.org, the email goes not only to shrewsbury.org, but it's distributed to the three of us automatically, as well as Haley and Brennan. So that we make sure that they help us make sure we don't miss anything and help us with research if we need to, and Haley is our designated responder, so we're not violating open meeting law. And she does a great job doing that, so, and Brennan does too, so they keep us on task. So don't worry, we do get your emails. Okay. All right, so why don't we start with, since that's gonna be how we're gonna set up listening session. And so, oh, thank you very much. Listening session. And then if people could keep their comments to 2-3 minutes, that would be helpful, so that we can also have time to digest the information. Is there a microphone on, Haley?
I think it's, I see Gary West is maybe on,
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now I have boots on my computer. All right, so why don't we get started if everybody feels good? Haley, did you want to do any introduction at all? I know you've been.
So I have a presentation, but I think we should hear from the public first.
Okay,
And like I said, I like to be closer.
no, that's fine.
I'll go there.
And I didn't know you had been, I didn't know where you wanted to be. So, okay, so why don't we start with Terry? Would you like to start our comments off?
They request that Haley's slide presentation be put up so everybody could understand.
Okay.
What is included in that, so for reference, like existing members. So that
Okay.
copy and the taxpayers.
I should write on this.
That's not I'm just.
No.
As a matter of. just-
That Haley, how does the select? Yep.
That she's putting ahead of what's included in those slides.
How does the select should feel about that? Good idea. How do you feel? Give me your feelings.
I guess it makes sense that it sort of explains what's happening.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it gives a whole picture of
Okay,
history and some of it, where it lays out
I-
the issues and topics and.
so why don't?
I can do it first.
Yeah.
I just didn't want
Terry,
to
thank
take
you.
away from the comment.
Yeah.
But so Brennan, if you want to cue that up.
Terry, thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah.
Did everybody see that? Am I in the way?
Yeah, me too.
Do you just want to
I need to speak.
increase a little?
Hear you back here.
Yeah, hold on one second.
Oh,
I know, I was just talking to Brennan for a second. Hold on. All right, perfect. I think that's big enough. So the presentation talks about how do you make a modern framework for an advisory committee. And in this particular case, we're talking about the Lake Wyola Advisory Committee. So if you want to scroll down, Brennan. So the history that I've seen is in 1991, there was an ad hoc committee that was formed, originally proposed by the planning board, I believe at that time, to talk about and study watershed protection, road safety, and septic management. And so that was organized and formally adopted almost 35 years ago today on July 20th. With the intention of preserving natural values. And so the original charge, and there are copies of it back there, talks about 3 to 5 members selected directly from the Lake Association roster. And then later on in time, in 2017, the scope was expanded by a select board vote that happened on May 16th to include water quality and dam safety oversight. And you had at that time, there was a separate committee that dam management. And so those are merged into one. And then that new roster of people added the fire chief and the dam keeper, which brought the total members of the committee up to 11. And the impetus for this discussion today is there was a request to, you can actually leave it there, Brennan, was that there was a request to add a 12th member, but there was never any formal vote of the select board to increase the membership to 12. That's why we got started talking about the association. And now if you scroll down, Brennan, you know, why are we here? So you have a committee that grew to a 12th seat, but you didn't have a formal vote. You have town staff who have voting seats on an advisory board. And they are voting on matters within their jurisdiction, whether that's as the dam keeper or as the emergency management director. And, you know, municipal committees cannot have private entities appointing board members to that committee. You want to protect the public integrity, and all voting members must be approved and appointed by the select board directly. I think that's everything on that slide. So that's why we have to evolve. You know, if you've been an ad hoc committee for 35 years, it's probably safe to say it's a standing organization. And I think that the town recognizes that there's a lot of value, and it's not the case that we want this committee to go away or fall by the wayside or feel like people can't speak about the lake, but we want to make it in a way that adheres to current municipal best practice and law. So let's scroll down and let's talk about the advisory role. So what is it? If you're on an advisory committee, what do? Right? You're a technical resource for the select board. You are a forum for interboard communication. So the LWAC has members from the select board, planning board, board of health. And it's a body that's focused on long-term, right? The lake isn't going anywhere. Neither is the dam, right? So how do we make sure that these long-term environmental, you know, health factors like water quality and dam operations, you know, like we had our emergency dam order, you know, how do we make sure that we're monitoring these and taking care of these resources? And it should be a research-driven group that provides formal recommendations. So you should have an advisory board that issues some policy recommendations to the select board. Hey, we, for example, held a public listening session, and we determined that for residents around the lake, these are the main issues that they're facing. And so we would advise the select board to do X, Y, and Z to meet those needs. All right, but what it is not an autonomous decision-making body. It does not have any regulatory or enforcement agency. It doesn't have, you know, taxing authority, and it's not a platform for non-watershed, non-pertinent disputes, right? So you shouldn't be using the LWAC if it's not related to something related to Lake Wyola, right? And I think a lot of that makes really intuitive sense. And so if that's what it is and what it's not, where does the authority lie? So Brennan, if you scroll down for me, please. Take a sip of water. Authority and influence, right? So the public forum for community research, for data collection, for citizen feedback, a formal channel for gathering neighborhood expertise and passing on non-binding recommendations to the select board. Because even if the select board is given a recommendation by an advisory committee, it doesn't have to act on that recommendation. It's still ultimately the select board's authority on how it wants to be advised and what steps it wants to take. So to that effect, the LWAC, the Lake Wyola Advisory Committee is strictly advisory, right? There's no regulatory independent enforcement or authority. It can't pass town laws. It can't enact mandates. It can't assess a fine. It can't alter town property rules. An advisory committee has no power to enforce its own preferences. Its only output is advice to the executive town leadership. That's what it is. Scroll down, please. So I know that in conversations with people in the public, there's a lot of anxiety. There's some anxiety, right? Like hypothetically, what if a bunch of people got on the board and they said, you know, we want to get rid of voting. We don't want any voting on Lake Wyola. Can't happen. Very simply, again, no regulatory power. Even if you had an opinion of people on that board who wanted to eliminate voting, there's no legally enforceable, binding opinion of that board, right? And furthermore, there's no jurisdiction for it because Great Ponds, which Lake Wyola is, falls under the jurisdiction of the environmental police. And you would need town-wide legislation at town meeting to make any kind of changes. And even if something did pass on town meeting floor, it still has to go to the Attorney General's office for the ultimate review, right? And the appointment filter. So the select board has, in the time that I've been on with the town, just a year, we've formalized an application process where people who are interested in serving on town boards and committees, they fill out an application. We do a really short interview, and then we make recommendations to the select board and we say, you know, hey, we have all these people who are interested in this committee and here's some of their background, here's some of their interests. And again, the select board has that ultimate authority to make that appointing. So I understand that there's certainly a fear, but it's not backed up in any kind of legal reality. So again, true decision-making, you've heard me say it a bunch, it's the select board, executive policy, hiring and firing, controlling committee charges, and making appointments. And then we have some other seats of power, right? So the Board of Health, they have some regulatory power. Certainly the Conservation Commission has some regulatory power. And ultimately town meeting, you know, that is the body through which we make decisions here in town. Do you have a question? What?
Risk management.
Yeah, risk management, that's a good one. So in a municipal power structure, it's supposed to be distributed, not concentrated, right? And you can see different layers of that with each of these bodies, excuse me. So if something happens, how do we let people know how we're feeling, right? How do we preserve the public voice? So anyone in town, no matter if you live seasonally, no matter if you live year round, you have the ability to directly contact the select board. As Melissa said, they check their email. They don't have a private phone line, but that's when you would contact the town administrator's office. You would, you could make a records request. You could call, email. I have an open door policy. I tried to close my door today and people kept knocking on it, which I like. Don't get me wrong. That's just a joke. But there are ways that people can make their opinion heard. And certainly, the LWAC should have public comment periods where people can make public comment. They can also do things like surveys and listening sessions. And there's a lot of municipal tools in the toolkit to getting feedback from stakeholders. And so the bottom line, it's constitutional. No one can take that away. And it's not committee dependent. Every taxpayer, hold on, I gotta let this woman in the room. You can and should, if you have a concern, make use of one of these avenues or make use of all these avenues. So if we scroll down, priority of purpose, full disclosure, I did use an AI tool to make this word art. So structure follows function, right? So we're talking a lot about composition, but one of the things that we need to think about first is, after 35 years, what does the select board want to be advised on? What are the issues that are important in town? And the word chart talks about some of them, right? We've heard a lot of words about community, the beach, the boaters, the swimmers, the silts, the erosion, the preservation, all of those things are part of the lake, and probably a lot more, but that's what I pulled together. And so how do you compose an advisory committee, right? Well, what you should do in a municipality is you should say, well, we want to hear from the widest berth of people that we can. We want to get, enough opinions so that we can get some good advice that then the select board will act on. So you want to avoid stacking a committee in any particular way, right? So you wouldn't want to stack a committee with people who don't like boats any more than you would want to stack a committee of people who love boats and who think everyone should be mandated to have a boat, right? Too extreme. We want the middle path. If you scroll down again. So what I had proposed initially to the select board, this is the framework, right? So we had the ad hoc structure, 11 or 12 members, give or take, proposed framework, removing the voting capacity of town staff. Again, we're going to try to protect conflicts of interest violations. And I should note that, yes, the state has conflict of interest law, but that law doesn't necessarily tell you about best practice. It just sets a floor. Okay, it says you can't have a conflict of interest, and if you do, you should disclose it. But municipal best practice is particularly for a standing advisory committee would be that your town staff are not voting members. And, we have interdepartmental coordination. I added in my recommendation, recreation committee, but it's a recreational resource. And then the voting seats. And I think that's where the conversation will particularly kick up tonight. But thinking about, we have people who live at the lake, but it's also a town-wide resource. Certainly people who don't live at the lake use the lake. So how do you get a wide section of people who have different opinions to offer advice on a town resource? And so, in my professional opinion, I would say you certainly want an odd number. It's easiest for quorum, and I would certainly discourage going much higher than like 12 or 13 members. I think at that point can be kind of a lot, right? But if you scroll down.
Haley,
Mhm.
question on this one. Can you explain, just use an example? What would you define a technical expert?
So somebody who, it can take a lot of different forms. It could be somebody who maybe has some experience with hydrology, or maybe with conservation, or maybe with, stormwater erosion. That's certainly been a topic. So somebody who has some kind of technical advice that meets a component of the lake, right? So fire chief, emergency management, that's pretty straightforward. Dam keeper, also very straightforward. And so something in also those kind of lines would be another technical expert. Now you can scroll. So we want to safeguard for the future, right? We want a committee that's going to stand at least the test of time for the next 35 years, but hopefully much longer than that. And so we want to draft a charge that is going to lock in dedicated seats, right? Because we want dedicated watershed seats, because the odds are, I would assume people will understand the lake a little bit more just through force of habit. But you also want to have an opportunity for at-large membership, so that you're not just hearing from that segment of the population, right? So you can hear from people who use the lake recreationally and might have a different opinion. Thinking about moving to staggered 3-year terms. So that way you're not constantly having a revolving door every particular year. You can make sure that there's a steady long-term experience. And one thing that, we've kind of alluded to today, but talking about interlocking directorships, right? So making sure that this is a municipal board and it's functioning for a municipal purpose and not some other purpose that is being served by a different organization. And so the next steps, that's what we're doing tonight, right? So we're doing a feedback loop. We are having a joint meeting. We're going to hear from public comment. And now you can scroll down again.
And also really too, Haley, you can finish that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because again, it's not going away. It's just being restructured. And so this was a roadmap I did. Obviously, it's subject to change. But one of the things that, I like to move pretty expeditiously, talking about it now, late July, the board will come back. And after they've digested everything that they're hearing tonight, and then hopefully by next month, we're making appointments. And then by September, we're kicking things off. And again, moving pretty quickly. And again, just trying the strategic goal for the town is not to disenfranchise, but it is to create a transparent inclusive framework that is based on best practices so that we have a long-term committee that will function well for the years to come. Now, if you scroll all the way down, the questions and discussion, I guess it did make a lot more sense to go first, especially now that I remember I had this slide. So that's my presentation. That's my spiel. You know, it's not about disenfranchising. It's just about saying we had a framework from 1991 that doesn't really hold up in today's municipal world. And how do we adapt things so that we're not losing a particular voice, but we're making sure that it's more encompassing of everyone who lives in the community, because it has to be a board that's for the community. That's it. That's what I had.
Take a breath. Thank you very much. One thing I'd like to do to say, first of all, is when Haley first brought this up to us, the select board focused really closely on getting it organized and formalized and that sort of thing. So I do want to extend apology for not having had this part first with the listening session with all of you and the committee members. So I do apologize for that. That was on the select board for not thinking that completely through. We sometimes get focused on everything we have on our agenda and just push through. So I apologize for that on behalf of the select board. With that said, I know you all here are to make public comments, and just to reiterate that kind of 2 or 3 minutes if you could. We do have, yes, Mark.
At some point, we make some comments about the slides.
You can, yeah, we could
Do it. You can do it as any part of public comment.
Yeah, any part of public comment. Yeah. So hold on one second, Tom. So as we get started, so kind of like 2 or 3 minutes, so everybody gets to speak and we're not here too late.
Do you want to see the Zoom people again?
Yes, please. I do want to see them on camera.
Can you stop sharing screen, Brennan, please?
Thank you very much.
I'm just saying, we need the ability to.
Yeah, we can bring it up at any point. Yeah, we can bring it up at any point. Brennan, who you don't see here in the room, is behind the scene, doing that for us. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, I'll call this up to order. Or is it required?
So we have only, you can do it a couple different ways. You can do public comment first, or and then do the joint meeting. You can do them at the same time. Just depends.
Yeah. Why don't we do the public comment? Well, yeah, you can. Why don't we call them to order? Because there may be questions they have to answer that the select board may not have the answer to. So yes, Mark, you want to call your?
So we're meeting the select board here tonight. I'm not sure, let's see, all look around.
Raise your hand if you're currently on LX so that we can see if there's a quorum.
Any questions, or we just go by raising hands?
I think you got a quorum there, I think.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay, so you're called to order. Perfect. All right. Terry, I had called on you before. Do you want to, you gave us that great suggestion for having Haley go first. Would you like?
Since you just called L back to order, to allow the chair L to speak.
Okay, go. I have to check with my committee.
That's the comments tonight, but I just want to start off by talking a little bit about the history of LWAC. And you know, how it was created and why it was done. It was created basically in 1991, but it really started in the 80s, late 80s, where a number of people in town decided they wanted to restrict access to people's houses on the lake. And there was a proposal at a town meeting that said you couldn't use your house on the lake for more than 180 days a year. So that was the first attempt at restricting lakefront property owners, homeowners, from using their houses. Now that didn't pass, fortunately. And so, you know, we move on. But as a result of that, LWAC got formed, and it was designed to foster communication between the lake community. If you look in that packets there, the lake community and the town. And the town is represented by select board, Concom, planning, Board of Health. And the lake community was represented by 3 to 5 members of the Lake Wyola Association. And so this committee here it's been very effective over the years, and we've done a lot of good stuff. Maybe not always within our charge, but always things that needed to be done because nobody else would do them. I know I want to go through a couple of those things. You all know Lakeview Drive, that's the street that goes in front of the state park. Right, there's been a history of beaver dam problems at the culvert. Beavers like to build dams in the culvert. Well, that road is not a dam. And so this committee has kept an eye on it, and we've coordinated with the highway department to remove the dams and with the Board of Health. So we've recently it's gotten really bad because of this missing coordination, and the water level on one side of the dam was several feet higher than on the lakeside. And that road could easily got washed out. We were persistent and worked with the town and got that repaired. We secured state and local funding for the dam maintenance. Every 2 years, there's a dam inspection. The dam inspection identified problems for the dam. And so we, with the help of our engineering company, got funding from the town and the state. That funding unfortunately got used to repair the dam, but still it was funding that was available that we worked on getting. We worked with Concom and the Mass Department of Environmental Protection to obtain the necessary permits to lower the lake in the wintertime. We lowered it by 2 feet, and it's been done for 30 years, at least 30 years. It's done to protect the dam. It's an earthen dam. It's done to protect the dam from ice damage. Well, one of the Concom meetings, the state inspector was there, and he says, you guys don't have permits to do that. And so now there's a big problem, but we don't have the right state permits to lower the lake, and we need to lower the lake to protect the dam. And so LWAC went out and got those permits. We worked with Concom, we worked with the state, and we got the permits to do that in a relatively quick manner. That saved the town probably at least $10,000. Another requirement from the state was to do a wildlife habitat evaluation. And members of LWAC worked with that engineering company to successfully get that done and done accurately. We sponsored a wildfire safety workshop and home inspections, so that because we're living in a bowl, and actually all of Shrewsbury was able to participate in this. We live in a bowl, but it's like if there's a fire, there's not many places to go to. And so we sponsored that. We alerted the town to deteriorating conditions in the Locks Pond culvert. That's another major road that goes down from center of town to the dam. And that culvert was deteriorating terribly. And so we petitioned and got the select board to agree to get funding to replace that culvert, and that's been done. We led efforts to remove existing sediment and prevent additional sediment from getting into the lake. That resulted in an extensive study by FERCog, Franklin Regional County of Government, and developed what's called a watershed-based plan. We were working hand in hand on that plan. And as a result of that, we're now eligible for additional state funding. So it was a very crucial first step until it was setting contamination in the world. We've done a lot of water testing over the years. To monitor the water quality. We helped drive the biannual dam inspection. Members of LWAC made sure that got happened, and it was pulling teeth in many cases. We had a good engineer, but didn't always write the reports. Did the inspections, but trying to get the report out was pulling teeth, and we kept pushing and pushing. We drove that process. We helped develop the dam's operating operation and maintenance manual. We obtained goose egg addling permits from the Mass Division of Fish and Wildlife. This is so that we could boil the eggs so they didn't hatch, and to help maintain a reasonable goose population on the lake. We led changes to town bylaws to enhance safety on the lake. We made the recommendations. We presented at town meeting, and they were voted on, and eventually came into law. We worked with the Concom to develop boat ramp safety signage, so people coming to the lake who know, what are safe things to do in lake, what are not safe things to do in the lake. We participated in a conference, that was called the Massachusetts Conference on Lakes and Ponds. And this was a conference to learn about what other communities are doing at the lakes in their town. Oddly enough, at that conference, one of the things we learned was that most towns who develop bylaws related to the lake never get it off to the Attorney General. And at that time, we didn't either. And so, well, it wasn't technically law, so that's something we pushed. The town clerk at the time, she jumped right on it, and we successfully got that latest bylaw revision in place. A few years ago, our dam engineer retired. Right? And so who do you replace him? Well, we vetted about 8 companies. All right, we developed a scope of work for the dam inspections. And we ultimately, the town administrator at that time chose a company, which was, so now we have a very good, high quality dam engineering company called GZA. We led that effort. We helped maintain access to the Randall Road boat ramp. I mean, not theoretical access, physical access. We go down there and we trim the bushes so that people can get into the lake. And this one I didn't really realize. So one of the older members of the committee mentioned it, or longtime members. But you notice the green signs you have by your house that has your house number. LWAC initiated that and worked with fire department and police department to help purchase those signs. And in some cases, LWAC members actually did the installation.
That's one that I will disagree with you, Mark, because that was always just firefighters association. What that was the Lake Viola road signs that we did.
Oh, okay.
The house number signs have always been a fire department.
Okay, so it was a street sign. Okay, I misinterpreted that when they said, it did say street signs.
Yeah, street signs.
Okay.
All the roads because most of the signs were missing, nailed to a tree, and the tree was going over them.
My mistake.
Correct, sorry.
But in all that, this is only a partial list of things we've done. And it could not have been done with the extensive participation of members of the Lake Viola Association. And it's not for that, it's not for the history.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. Okay, Terry, one more time. Good. Or you would like to make a comment now?
So I just want to introduce myself because I was a little confused that at the time these discussions came up. So my name's Terrence Smith. I'm a registered professional civil engineer and environmental engineer. So at the time the discussions came up, I was shocked to find out this was still an ad hoc committee. It's very clear in the title of it is Lake Viola Advisory Committee that I was serving on advisory committee. There's never any question in my mind as to regulatory policy or anything that we had been voting on. Also, too, like the members that are here, Catherine, Mr. Gorey, Howard, Walter, we've all served. I've served on this committee, I think, since 2009. So to have this come up in a meeting about the restructuring just a couple months ago, at the time that I received from you guys, my reappointment notice. And to go to town hall to get sworn in by the town clerk. I also wasn't confused about how the committee is appointed. There is no confusion. The Lake Viola Association can have up to 3 to 5 people appointed. They can recommend those people. They have over 150 members. If 150 members wanted to join this committee, only 3 to 5 of them could go. It's not the Lake Viola Association that's appointing the members to LWAC. It's you, the select board. And then you have to go to swear in town. And then the other thing that really confuses me, okay, has to do with the general law related to conflict of interest in town employees. In 1996, the town of Shutesbury, I believe, adopted an ordinance or a bylaw that makes any volunteer a town employee. And you can look in that because it's given out to all of us that are appointed to committees by the town clerk. So the idea that staff or full-time town employees shouldn't be voting members doesn't make sense to me. And I'll tell you why. Because the people that are there, that are those people, Howie is the dam keeper, formerly before he retired, Mr. Tibbetts is the fire chief. They were the ones doing the work on the day-to-day basis of LWAC and saved the town thousands of dollars through this. So to put them in a position and expect them to serve on a committee that they would have no voting power, it just doesn't make sense to me. Plus, every other person that's on committee, when you go it because of the state laws and what the town adopted, we're all town employees, even if you're just a volunteer and not paid. So with that, I just would encourage you to continue that over the past, but that as an advisory and a consideration be given that before this happened, that the last meeting, in the meeting prior to that, in the meeting prior to that, there was huge discussions over the restructuring of LWAC. And that should there be considerations of changes to appointments and different things to come back to you, to be recommended to you. The committee settled that itself to come back to you to say, we're happy with the way it is. So why change it? It's work. You had longstanding members that have been on there for, almost I think Catherine might be one of the original members, no?
I succeeded Bill Elliott after he died.
Okay, but we've served like longer periods of time. And, and then I just want to address this. There was a lot of discussion over people being seasonal and no representation and things, and discussions and meetings recently about that. Well, I'll tell you, I'm a registered voter of Shutesbury. Okay, I served that. I moved here just within the past couple of years as a full-time resident because of changes in my life. But anyways, prior to there being hybrid meetings, I used to drive 26, 27 miles to come up here and find out there wasn't a quorum. Know why there wasn't a quorum most of the time? Because the people that served on the other committees, the select board, the conservation commission, the planning board, those people wouldn't show up. It was a hard time. So it was who was showing up? It was the people that were appointed by the select board who represented the association because they had interests. And I get the concept of like people being from within the watershed. That's important. The community at large is represented by the other committees that serve on LWAC. And that's just my feel, but I'll stop there because I think that other people need to be given more opportunity to speak on this, but appreciate your time. I wanted to introduce myself so that, and I would like to be considered, however this goes, to continue on this until the membership gets straightened out.
Thank you. Just a point of, I think, correction, if I remember right, the volunteers are special town employees. It was to make sure that they were covered by insurance and stuff, but you were close. That was just, yeah. Okay. Next one, I have Mary Lou Conk. I don't see anyone on. Remember, if you're on Zoom, feel free to raise your hand. Okay. All right. Mary Lou.
So, my biggest concern living here in Shutesbury are two things related to Lake Wyola. One is what I discovered through following next door and speaking with people, the drowning of beavers. I was flabbergasted. The trap that they're held in, a beaver doesn't drown like a duck, they can swim underwater. So they're caught in a cage, yes. And takes about 15 minutes for it to drown while the rest of the family watches. Beavers are family oriented. Okay, so I can't believe that happens here. The second thing is, and there was a woman who I was talking to privately through next door. When somebody went out there and shot geese, I'm a pistol gun anxious woman standing in front of you. I've lost a family member, got shot in the head. Okay, so when I heard somebody's out there shooting geese, and then the dead geese floated up, where the woman who I was talking privately with, her daughter found the carcasses in Lake Wyola. Okay, so those are two things. Your new group, what authority will it have? I'm really curious. Will the ad hoc people be able to continue their work? And 3, I hope you open it up to people who live here, not lake people only. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Can't quite read this for this name. Anna? Anna, I'm sorry. Anna, go ahead. Sorry.
Anna Mancino. Hi, 26 Lake Drive. I just wanted to respectfully ask the select board to just reevaluate, as you said you were going to do. Jessica, appreciate the apology and the way that the decisions were made about full transparency to the group. So I'm just here to ask for the select board to pause and maybe table the discussion until the next couple of meetings. We can gather input and make a one decision on next steps. That's all.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. I'm gonna go
Sorry,
through.
Melissa.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's fine.
I'm gonna go to, sorry, I couldn't read your signature. I'm gonna go to Gary online. Go ahead, Gary. You may unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Gary West, and I'm a resident of Shutesbury, residing at 59 Shore Drive.
347.
Susan.
Pardon?
Susan, you have to mute yourself.
Okay. I have reviewed the proposed document to formalize the Lake Wyola Committee, LWAC, and I have concerns about several of its provisions. I understand that many of these issues will be discussed or can be discussed later in the meeting, and I appreciate that they will receive further consideration. In my view, LWAC has served the community and the town effectively for many, many years, decades even. It has provided thoughtful advice, fostered cooperation among stakeholders, and helped address issues affecting Lake Wyola in a constructive and productive manner. To date, I have not seen a compelling justification for making significant structural changes to a committee with such a strong record of service. Before altering a committee with such a successful history, I believe there should be clear evidence that the proposed changes will improve its effectiveness. In the absence of such evidence, I believe preserving a process that has proven successful is the more prudent course. I hope the Select Board will carefully consider LWAC's long history of effective service before adopting changes that have not been shown to enhance its ability to benefit the town and the Lake Wyola community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Gary. Michael Stokes.
Mike Stotts.
Oh, stop.
And I did what Gary said, and also, Melissa, I want to thank you for your apology. I serve on the LWA board, and I can just tell you, the select board upset a lot of people. This action. I heard that you're going to take a look at this again. I have a suggestion. I think the select board should step up, rescind the action that was taken, and agree to go forward in a new manner, bringing everybody in and trying to quell all the anger that's out there. I can talk a lot about it. Let's keep it short. Thank you.
Mark Rivers, did you want to speak?
I'll wait, I'll let everybody.
Okay, and-
I'll talk, we want to see.
Okay.
It's just the, board meeting.
All right, we'll come back to you. Sure. Charlene.
I can speak up here.
Okay, yes.
I am Sharon Linsky, a Lake Wyola homeowner and taxpayer for over 40 years. and a person who has enjoyed using this multifunctional lake for 60 years. Lake Wyola has always offered a relaxing, fun, safe, and friendly environment for residents and visitors for many years. It is disheartening for me to learn that some of the recent proposed changes in LWAC may jeopardize what so many people love and enjoy about Lake Wyola. Haley Bolton's disbanding of LWAC and proposed new configuration for LWAC are most concerning. I know there was a mention of a conflict of interest violation causing her to make this serious decision. The question to be asked, was legal counsel consulted to verify the statement by Haley Bolton? If there was a legal opinion rendered, who was the lawyer? It is important to know for certain if there was a conflict of interest violation, because Haley Bolton is limiting and lowering the number of lake residents on the new LWAC because she believes a conflict of interest violation exists. Also, not allowing the dam keeper and others to be voting members on this new committee is totally wrong. The town of Shutesbury should be thanking Howie Kinder for his vigilance and monitoring the dam daily. He found the recent hole and immediately alerted the proper authorities. Being on any town committee should allow for each committee person the right to vote. Changing the configuration to limit Lake Wyola residents and members is illogical for two main reasons. First, many of the current membership have tremendous knowledge about Lake Wyola. These members' expertise has been learned through their professional careers and years of investment, caring and maintaining good practices for the lake. Many members have served for years on this committee, providing valuable information that helps oversee the overall health of the lake. Having a new committee comprised of fewer lake residents and more Shutesbury residents who do not live around the lake could mean the new members are not aware of such things as the dam and its needs, the history of the cove changes, intelligence about water environments, and the partnership between LWA, the town, and LWAC. In particular, LWA is currently working cooperatively with the town on new lake initiatives. Secondly, the town of Shutesbury receives a tremendous, and I say tremendous, percentage of their tax base from lake residents. This tax base is essential to the town's omnibus budget. Lake residents have a serious financial investment in personally caring about Lake Wyola. When you own a home on Lake Wyola that has high taxes, you are extremely devoted to maintaining Lake Wyola's pristine condition. It makes absolutely no sense to seriously limit the number of lake residents on this proposed new committee. The town of Shutesbury has been very fortunate to have an organization like LWAC for at least 35 years that has been successfully operating. Lake Wyola is known as one of the cleanest and safest lakes in Massachusetts. Haley Bolton's drastic change to the LWAC configuration will be, in my view, disastrous to all the hard and dedicated work completed by previous LWAC groups. Hopefully, the select board will reverse Haley Bolton's decision and return to the successful LWAC group's composition.
Thanks, Charlene. One thing I do want to clarify is that, and while it might appear that this is Haley's decision, she brought to us only the fact that we should make it a permanent committee. We asked her to do the research that she presented, so it wasn't her that decided. She brought it to us and then we decided. So that was select board decision to change it. It wasn't Haley. She's just does our work for us and puts stuff together for us. So she's not the one
Well,
that.
I'm only saying that because I had a correspondence with her, and I must say, she's very good about communicating back
She
with
is,
people. I
yes,
really,
yeah,
truly
yeah.
can't tell you how much I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I asked her specifically where the recommendation came from, and she said.
Yeah, she
That's what
recommended
she
that we think about it and then she did the research for us, but this, the vote solely lies on us.
Right, and then
Yeah,
it was.
and our decision. Yeah,
Recommendation.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we asked her to look into it for us too. And she had made the suggestion. So that lies with the select board. Art. Keen, there you are. Hello.
Hi, my name is Art Keen. I live at 96 Lake Drive, where I've been for the last 18 years. I'm a member of LWAC and of the LWA board. And I'm going to read my statement so I can try to get through it in under 3 minutes. I'm here to ask you to reject the proposal for reorganizing LWAC and instead to vote to allow LWAC as currently constituted to continue its work until such time as a better proposal is presented, one that does not undermine the committee's ongoing work. I have no argument with making LWAC a standing committee or adding additional experts, including reps from the Recreation Commission and the Stormwater Task Force. But I disagree with removing the reserved seats for LWA representatives and for designating some current members as non-voting. I've sent you written testimony arguing for why the proposed changes are unnecessary, ill-advised, and not required by law. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip over all the arguments for why conflict of interest law doesn't apply.
If you'd like us to have them, you certainly, if you haven't emailed them, you can email them.
So that's out in the email. And I'll skip over the law stuff, except to say that there's nothing untoward, illegal, or unfair about reserving seats on LWAC for LWA members. They bring specific and necessary proximity to the committee's work, and their presence on the committee ensures due diligence on matters involving the lake, and this has served the town and the lake well for the last 35 years. It makes no sense to me to potentially exclude LWA members from the committee when they are doing the heavy lifting of protecting the lake and are on site keeping an eye on things. His assurance is that all of us, LWA members, will still be able to make public comment is of little comfort. Here's some quick examples of essential work that LWA members are doing to be the eyes and ears and the hands of LWA. One example is that Chair Mark Rivers and LWA member Dam Keeper Howie Kinder were critical for overseeing the dam repair and for seeking the necessary permits for inspections. The work of LWA members Tim and Kathy Timpson, who run the Lakes We Watch program, was instrumental in identifying invasive milfoil in the lake last year, and in conjunction with LWAC, bringing in experts from the DCR to investigate. LWA members test the lake water weekly, and LWA members keep tabs on the beaver activity that threatens town culverts and roads. LWA members organize wildfire prevention workshops and inspections that lessen our risk of susceptibility to wildfire. The list of contributions is long. Mark mentioned a whole bunch of stuff. I'm sure others will as well. But let me say that the suggestion that LWA members have dual loyalties is insulting. And let me warn that what you are poised to do is create a committee that will not be sufficiently informed. Let me say in conclusion that the procedures that we've experienced for implementing this change have been disappointing, and the town can and ought to do better, and I appreciate Melissa, your apology for that. The town administrator and the select board, as far as I know, made no effort to reach out to LWAC and to LWA to understand our ongoing work and to seek our input before developing this proposal. And this feels disrespectful and adversarial, but it's not too late to remedy that error. So I don't have the authority to do this, but I want to invite the select board and Haley to visit us at the lake and to learn more about what we do, what we have been doing, and what lies ahead. And to have a conversation about how to maximize the efficiency of LWAC. And that we do that before implementing this problematic proposal. Well, let me just say this in conclusion. Over the next 3 years, the town is going to rebuild the dam. We're going to restore the boat ramp. We're going to implement stormwater interventions and mitigate runoff related damage to the lake. These are substantial, expensive undertakings whose efforts touch on all aspects of the lake environment. It's imperative that LWAC be staffed with people who have the expertise to advise well on these projects and provide necessary oversight, just as LWAC effectively shepherded the recent dam repairs. For the last 35 years, LWAC has served as an effective and trusted advisor to the town on all matters concerning the lake, and LWA members have been the eyes and ears and often the hands of the committee in staying on top of that work. The proposal before you offers misinterpretation of statute as grounds for limiting participation of LWA members and the committee's current experts. I ask you to reconsider those exclusions. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. You said that the part you skipped was in the email that you had sent. Yeah, okay. All right. Let's see, is there anyone online on Zoom that has a comment before I move on to the next person? This here? Okay. All right, Kate. Hi, Kate.
My name is Kate Lord Gresham. It's great to come attention right here, Malay. And I've been a board member of the Lake White Association for years. We lived here for 5 years. We've been coming here for close to 15. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak at this listening session. I'm a little confused just where we are in the process. First of all, I wanted to thank you and make these for the apology because it has created a lot of hurt, especially for those members who have worked very hard on LWAC for years and felt very much blindsided by this. So in terms of procedure, when you said this meeting was to collect all the information and then there will be another action by the select board, or is the select board's vote of June 9th standing and have to be reversed? I'm just want to know.
So the process for us would be listening to these comments and then spending some time separately, of course, because of open meeting law and thinking about it. And then having another meeting where we discuss your ideas and that sort of thing. It could include.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, so the proposal hasn't been adopted formally yet. Is that correct?
No, we haven't.
Thank you. And then
We voted just
Disband.
disband charge, I think. But yeah. And so those are the two things we did do. We hadn't gone to the process of the picking the new members yet, or picking members yet.
Sure.
So we're
Well-
kind of like in the middle. We can always, we can change things as we go. So we're not, there's no concrete things right
Okay, got it. I will skip over that for several paragraphs and ask you to actually, abandon the vote to disband the current LWAC, advisory committee then. That's my position. But regarding the proposal, I have 2 points. One is on the voting, non-voting membership. I have a question why it's necessary to designate the 3 town employee positions as non-voting members. LWAC is an advisory committee with, as is said in the presentation, with no special policy, contract, or enforcement powers. It seems to me that input from the fire chief or emergency management director and the dam keeper is essential to the LWAC's mission. Barring them from voting on committee recommendations or segregating their input outside a committee vote as add-on comments seems overly bureaucratic and potentially undermining LWAC's effectiveness. In addition, I have a question about who is meant to be covered as an independent resident technical expert, because there is no town employee that has that position. But there are several members of LWAC who have volunteered their time or are part of the existing committee who have technical engineering, civil engineering, environmental experience that they bring as volunteers. I'm wondering if the designation of a expert and non-voting member is an attempt to regularize that, that some way.
I think
So
so.
eliminate that input. So I just have questions about the structure.
So I can answer,
I can answer that.
okay, so I currently think in the current membership, it's been the former fire chief, Walter Tibbetts, and his experience with the dam and trash rack and of those natures. So I think the title in this one, we had just left it open-ended and you had put up some thoughts for that.
So the thought is, if you're building something for the future, right? Right now, we have a core group of people, but let's say one of those members left, like let's say Walter left, just hypothetically, you would want to have somebody who has a similar level of technical expertise be able to fill that role. So that's why it's kind of like a blank name, because again, the idea behind this is that you do have to standardize, and unfortunately there is a bureaucratic process that you're trying to emulate so that you can create the template. You build the template, then you fill it in. And just the voting, non-voting thing. So it is very irregular for municipal staff to be a voting member of a committee. It's not best practice. Certainly for myself, I'm a member of the personnel board and the finance committee, but I don't vote on those issues. It's the committee that makes those votes. And so by moving the seat, yes, ex officio is another term for it, if it, non-voting. So the idea the idea is just to align it with best practice and what we're doing in other committees.
Well, I would just suggest that there be an affirmative request or outreach to people who have expertise on this issue to be on LWAC, and they be voting members. So maybe that should be in the mission statement that we enlist community members with this kind of expertise and expand the number of community members. I don't understand why it would be a non-voting position. So that was my comment on that. And I think it's a good idea to add the a representative from the recreation committee. I think that's a good idea. My second point is about LWA, Lake Wyola Association representation on LWAC. And I'm going from the presentation, Haley, you made about functioning, of the committee. If LWAC is a place where there's research, discussion, fact finding, the attempt to bring together ideas from the community that need to be brought to the select board. I think not having the LWA in the room for a discussion and having them outside to make a comment or to appear at the committee is redundant and not useful. As others have testified, the LWA does a lot of work around the lake. It is representative and it's been all of the things that other people have said. I'm getting us in my testimony. I think that there should be representation inside the discussion, and it shouldn't be sort of a special appeal to come, be a witness to a committee meeting and give your input. Then I think there is value in having representation from LWAC at the table as the committee deliberates. I also want to, if the idea is that there can be no more than two of, the 3 community members or however many community members are there who are officially LWA board members, that's fine. I think there should be somebody from the LWA board so that it can communicate things to LWA that need to be carried out. And I would also just point out that Shrewsbury benefits from the Lake Wyola Association's participation. As others have pointed out, we have arranged to pay for weekly water testing, at the lake, which is information that helps the Board of Health here in town. For which we paid out of fundraising $2,000 last year. And we've also contributed to the Shrewsbury Stormwater Management Engineering Study. We're a partner to that. We've formally endorsed the town's application for state MVP grant to carry out public education about that. Of course, we want to be involved, and there are some times that our organizational capacity is helpful to the town, and I wanted that to be acknowledged. I think that covers it. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I still see any hands online. Jennifer, there you are. I thought I saw you. Hello, Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer Wallace. I'm on the lake. I'm creation member. I'm also on the town by stormwater mitigation and implementation. Perspective from the town. So first of all, I just want to say that I think it's a great thing that the town has proposed involvement in taking a look at LWAC, reconstituting LWAC, looking at how it functions now. I think the town's rightful role as steward of this amazing ecosystem is involved in stepping up to even present a proposal, even though the way it was presented, thank you for your apology. I'm listening to all the comments and I read the proposal and I read the slide presentation online. From my view of it,
The proposal retains LWAC and all its wonderful history. All the accomplishments that they've done are not eliminated by the proposal. In fact, it builds on. It asks for membership changes, and this seems to raise a lot of concerns about membership. And I think that the changes that it's asking for reflect the complexities of how it is to live in this town, in this ecosystem, more full-time residents, much greater impact from storms and impacts into the lake, tougher financial times, necessary things to interact with the state. And I think that the social and the natural ecosystem is complex enough that it requires an LWAC that is also complex in its structure. So then I asked, how big can a committee be to be effective? You know, can it be, how big can it be to broaden the expertise on the committee and the representation and also be effective? You know, as Terry pointed out, the current LWAC sometimes doesn't meet because there's not a quorum. So therefore, you know, maybe it needs to be bigger. But if a committee gets too big, it can't function effectively. So one of the big issues that I'm hearing is a concern that there's an effort here to eliminate the Lake Wyola Association. And we've heard terms like lake community, watershed community, those that live around the lake, and LWA member, as if one or the other of those has priority. It is very unclear what we mean by lake community, or what we mean by watershed community, or why we prioritize those that live around the lake compared to those that live in town that's far away from the lake. I think that needs to be specified so that there's no hard feelings or confusion that, you know, someone's being edged out in favor of someone else being edged in. To be a representative community that reflects the whole system, the social and the ecosystem that is the whole town, it requires expertise and membership that I think go beyond just the Lake Wyola Association or those that live around the lake. So I think the membership thing is the big controversial thing that's happening here. And that's the thing that really needs to be identified and say what kinds of expertise and representation do we need and from which groups for the select board and the town meeting. Those are our two governmental hubs, right? Everything that these committees do feed to the select board and to the town meeting, who have the municipal government authority to do something in town. So I don't have big answers, but I think that I propose a complex committee made of many different expertises and residency that can match the complexity of the town faces. And I believe that.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, is there anyone online that'd like to make a comment? Okay, Catherine Hilton.
I'm Catherine Hilton. I am the Board of Health representative to LWAC. And I'm also the chair of the Board of Health. And previous members of the select board may know that I am very jealous of our prerogatives. I am concerned about the slide showing that all 9 voting members would have to apply for their positions. The members that represent town boards and committees are nominated by those town boards and committees. Our board is a consensus board. All of our votes are unanimous. If the 5 members of the Board of Health send a recommendation to the select board to nominate me, for example, as the LWAC representative, you better have a damn good reason for saying no. I think it's stepping on the prerogatives and the prerogatives of the town boards to do anything but basically rubber stamp those committees and boards nominations. And I would ask you to eliminate that requirement for the positions that are chosen by town boards and committees.
I can actually address that. Yeah, so I'm sorry, that's an error on my part. The application process is how we've handled like community. Says traditionally, even after we've adopted this process, if a board makes a recommendation, we still go with their recommendation. But for the community pieces, like when we did the police chief search committee, we had community seats, and those we did hold the application process for, but not for others.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
George Abda.
Hi, I'm George Abdow, 56 North Royal Drive. I'm also the president of Lake Wyola Association. And I'm here to bring up a couple of points. I mean, a lot of points have been brought up, but one of the ones that concerns me the most is, for those of you that don't know, Lake Wyola Association is a voluntary membership. We're a charitable organization. Nobody on that is a member of Lake Wyola Association has been forced to do it. They do it on their own. They do it for their local lake, for the keeping up of their roads, of keeping up with the watershed area. People that don't do it. To say that we're going to limit the amount of LWA participants on a board is opening up the possibility that people live in the watershed area but chose not to be on the members of the association can all of a sudden become members of LWAC, or people that are say, hey, I want to get on LWAC, so I'm not going to pay my dues for this year and next year, and all of a sudden I'm not a member anymore. I mean, there's not a solid criteria. It's a moving target. It's just a voluntary organization. To list that as a criteria for a number of seats or against the number of seats, it is not a good mention. And the people that live in the lake area that are members of the association care about the lake, care about the association, care about LWAC, and care about preserving the watershed. And that's why they're here, and that's why they do it. And that's why they volunteer all their time. As it was said, LWAC is working very well now. It's worked great over the since its inception. And this proposal to come around and change it in such a hasteful way so quickly, without, whether it's a violation of open meeting law, not a violation of open meeting law, whether it was done as part of committee appointments or whatever it was, but just to do it in such a way that nobody knew what was going on until after it happened was wrong. And I appreciate your apology. But it's gotten to us to the point where we are. And the other point I wanted to bring up, again, I know everybody probably wants to get out of here, is that, I mean, the language is very, very similar to a proposal that was brought before the board, LWAC committee, and it was debated for numerous hours and then voted down by the committee because they didn't think it was well. And all of a sudden, a real similar project gets slammed down your throat, or however you want to say it, as part of the new current proposal that's being presented today. And that is wrong. There's all these people that volunteer, whether it's Howard, whether it's Walter, whether it's everybody else, they come here, they're not here for the money, they're here for the love of the lake, they're here to protect the watershed. And to discriminate against them, saying, no, you can't vote. Why would somebody want to come to a meeting, be part of the watershed, and do all this stuff if they're being told, okay, now you can't vote. You just got to go off over here and other people are going to do it. They're the experts, they're the people that put the time in, they're the people that know. And all of a sudden they're going to be excluded. And the consistency in which the exclusion is not consistent for the rest of your town committees and the way everything operates. And I think you need to reconsider and come up with a better solution, because there are a lot of people that love Lake Wyola and do a lot for the lake that feel like they got stepped on. Thank you.
Yep, I see one hand, Zachary online. Zachary? Go ahead.
Still muted.
Hi, my name is Zachary Harrison. I just want to add one quick point. Just kind of back off of what George and other people have said is I'm a member of the LYA board of directors, and also in my free time, I am a social and civics teacher. And I think that trying to move LWA membership from the advisory board is a bad idea. And one thing that I always tell my students is that advising and giving your input is a huge aspect of being a good citizen, being a good role model. And that's what teachers and as a social studies teachers, what I want to do, make sure that they're going to be better students and better people of society. Limiting people who have the most buy-in, who care about the lake from this committee makes no sense to me. It's kind of like if you think about Congress, you have armed forces, committees. All of them are veterans. They know the issues. They know what is wrong. They know how they can fix it. So my 2 cents is the reason why we have this advisory committee is to make sure that the lake is in the best place it can be. And the people that care the most about the lake and the people that have the most buy-in, as some other people in here, are also members of LWA. Just like George said, it's volunteer and we do so much for the community. And I think that, representation in all forms is important. So I really would recommend that you guys reconsider your vote.
Thank you, Zachary. I see your hand, Mateo. I'm gonna go to Michael and then you, Michael. Yeah.
Michael Teixeira. I do not live on the lake, but I live in Shutesbury. And I would say my perspective is I've been on town committees for 20 years. I was on the select board, the school committee. I'm on the planning board. I'm the chair of the Energy and Climate Action Committee. I was on the CPC. I was on the zoning board of appeals. I was on the broadband committee. I have a sense of how committees work in town. So that's the perspective I bring to it. I guess one thing I would say, and Jennifer brought it up, I didn't hear anything in Mark's list of what LWAC did that can't be done in a new LWAC. It's about configuration. It's not about a committee achieving things. Every committee in town achieves things. We raise money, we deal with difficult issues, we try to engage people. That's consistent. So I applaud the select board and Haley for thinking anew about how the committee should be. And I think it's really important that we bring LWAC into alignment with the rest of the committees in town, if not the way it's supposed to also work in the Commonwealth. It's an asterisk right now, I think, the way it's designed, and it should not be. So I have some specific things that I just wanted to address. In terms of the mission, you all got my email, so I'll just sort of highlight this, but for the general public, in the mission at the beginning, it says, and my approach is the lake is for Shutesbury residents. It's not for a subset. People around the lake don't necessarily care more than other people in town. It's a town resource and we're all here for the lake. We care about it. In my role in the planning board, we spent many hours talking about the lake. On the CPC, we talked about the lake. There's many committees are dealing with this. It's just part of town. It's one part of town. Stormwater, energy and climate action. It's a big deal. So in the mission, it says the mission of LWAC is to serve as a municipal liaison to the lake community and to advise the select board. My suggestion is to change that and just say the mission of LWAC is to advise the select board. There's no reason to call out as a liaison to the lake community and what is the lake community and why is it special? As we've talked about, committees that are appointed advise the select board. The select board is making the decision. So the whole idea is you have a committee, you figure out who's on it, and then they advise. There's no reason to be a liaison. You can have people who are liaising within it. I would propose adding an additional function around recreation. At town meeting, we had a discussion a couple of years ago about that. But in adding a recreational member, it also sort of reflects that there's a function about recreation that's important. That's a lot of why people go to the lake. That's how they use the lake. So putting it in, and I suggest it's language, but I think that's important. A small thing in terms of the town and operational technical staff. I think it should be the fire chief or the emergency management director, although the history is that it's the same person. It won't necessarily be. So I think that needs to be just separated out so we don't trip over it in the future. And I do support the expanded membership in terms of the committee representation. In terms of voting, I'm not going to go there right this second. I think the big thing, and I think Jennifer mentioned it, the passion and the sense of being cut out is about the community representation. My suggestion is actually 2 residents of Shutesbury living anywhere in town, 1 resident of Shutesbury living in the Lake Wyola watershed, and 1 non-resident property owner within the Lake Wyola watershed. There shouldn't necessarily be calling out because someone's part of a group. If you live around the lake, you could be part of the Lake Water Association or not. You have a stake in the lake, and if you live around the lake, we want to make sure that the voices are there, and then have a non-resident as well. But currently, it's actually the inverse. The people who live in town who are not part of the lake have less of a voice than other people, and I think it should be just residents, generally speaking, without having that title. In terms of the terms, I think 3 years staggered is okay. I have 2 thoughts about that. The way appointments work now, appointments are 1 year at a time for many committees. I would say if we're going to align with other committees, it should be 1-year appointments and you can free up. And that's sort of how it goes. That's standard for many of the committees in town. If it was a 3-year, I think just like Finance Committee, for example, and others, you have limits to renewal. There should not be people serving for decades. That does not expand voice.
Finance has 2, 9, 3.
That's 3.
Yeah.
So
3 years, yeah.
yeah, there's got to be a limit on how many renewals, because otherwise it's not really a representative committee. It's not bringing in new voices, fresh blood. And I do think the conflict of interest is really important. So I applaud Haley for sort of identifying that. If you were to sort of keep, the LWA designation, it really is important to have a limit of how many voices are representing the community, because that's a community response. It shouldn't be underestimated that that's important. It's just the whole idea of being on a committee. And I guess I would just say this for people who have said, volunteering and putting in hours. These folks put in a gazillion hours. I put in a gazillion hours. Kat's put in a gazillion hours. People put in a gazillion hours because they care about this town. And it's not about, just the lake. It's about the town. And so the whole idea is to think more broadly. And I think I'll end by saying, you should go forth with what the recommendations are. There's some tweaking, but generally speaking, I think it's really appropriate for alignment, for consistency, for legality, and to expand the voices of town. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey,
Okay, go ahead. As Michael brought it up too, watershed communities. There is now a year that's working with the Lake Wyola and Fern have a map that defines the watershed, Lake Wyola watershed. If watershed community continues to be used, could be very useful to have some actual definition, like what is the watershed? Then we all understand what we're talking about. But the people who live in that watershed who might not never have thought of themselves as being part of that system, and they go, oh, I live in that watershed. Oh.
Thank you, Jennifer. You should look at that map. Go ahead, Terry. Then I'm going to go back to Tim.
No one's touched on this point, but I think that something the select board needs to consider, like, because there was something that was recently brought up as part of the formal LWAC vote involving the private roads around there. So I'd ask if there's a stormwater committee that's there, and if there was no representation of the Lake Wyola Association, you'd have people that are outside of the association membership making decisions associated with private roads. And that's a big part of this, and I commend the town because LWAC started 15 years ago talking, and I think Tracy had brought concerns up about the roads, and it started from a roads committee, and Mr. Elliott had put together and worked with folks from the Quabbin who developed best management practice, just as some general guidance. It wasn't like this big formal plan that everyone thought it was. So, but with that and with the repairs that are going to be coming up on the dam, the whole watershed is going to come into play on that. But the bottom line is the property owners whose lake front property extends out to above the town's property and the dam. And it is all gonna come into play, and you could potentially have people from outside of those areas with no property ownership interests making decisions. Thanks.
Matea.
How do you add it to the list? Well, can it just be added?
Hi,
Okay.
Mateo Pingallo on Locks Pond Road. And, I've lived on the lake and I've not lived on the lake in Shutesbury. And I am technically in the watershed area now, I guess. I had just two things. First, the conflict of interest law about appointing employees to voting membership on a committee doesn't apply to towns under 2,000. So in Shutesbury, I think we're still at 1,800 or so. So that, that really doesn't apply to us. But I do want to echo Michael and Jennifer's points. I've heard a few things raised today that I'm a little concerned about. I disagree with the presumption that only Shutesbury residents who live on Lake Wyola can adequately care about the lake or have the adequate expertise to serve on LWAC. I know because I lived there that our lake residents provide a tremendous service in their stewardship of the lake, but there are many Shutesbury residents who use the lake on a regular basis and who also care about it deeply and could serve ideally on LWAC. I think it's important for the select board to remember the lake is a public resource. It's for all of Shutesbury residents and beyond. We all enjoy it and protect it. It does not belong only to the members of the Lake Wyola Association. It belongs to them as well, but it belongs to all of us. And it's also not LWAC's function to ensure that the Lake Wyola Association continues to have, in the form of its guaranteed seats on LWAC, an incentive to attract paying members. That's not the committee's charge. I would also, there's something that came up earlier in the public comments. I wanted to kind of resist this extremely, I think, troublesome argument that because someone pays a particularly high property tax or property tax at all, they are therefore entitled to a certain role in local governance. I think that a pay-to-play scheme like that is contrary to the fundamental principles of the democratic process. It implies that those who are less affluent somehow deserve fewer opportunities for representation or less of a voice in our local government. I heard the phrase private property interests come up, and I think that's a concerning way to make a decision about how our committee appointments are made. I see no reason why Lake Wyola Association members should not have a guaranteed voice on LWAC. I think Michael's solution is a really elegant one, but I also see no reason why the community at large beyond the Wyola district should not also have a voice on the committee. And I don't think that that's exclusion of anybody. I think it's the opposite. I think it's inclusion of more Shutesbury community members in the decisions that impact a resource that really is a Shutesbury resource and not just an LWA resource. So I think that both the community at large and members of LWA should have a seat at that table.
Thank you, Mateo. I've really done Michael. Noreen. Oh, there you go.
Hi, Noreen Pease, 19 South Laurel Drive in Shutesbury. I'm a former president of Lake Wyola Association, and I was on the board of health with Cat for 15 years, and I recently retired, so I'm no longer your Cat's purview. Anyway, like holy. So I am very grateful to the select board and to Haley for taking on this issue and for attempting to modernize and update and make it consistent with other town committees. I think it only invites more people in our town to participate in town government and to learn more about its wonderful resource that belongs to all of us, not just a few of us. And as a member and a former president of the Lake Wyola Association, I unfortunately have to say that I don't feel like the Lake Wyola Association always completely attempts to listen to all the voices around the lake. So I am hopeful by taking this more inclusive approach that more people who live on the lake and in different places on the lake, perhaps not right on the water. I do live right on the water. I'm fortunate to do that. We'll have more opportunity to participate in this process and have more direct say in policymaking. And finally, I agree with everything that Michael has proposed. I think it makes a total amount of sense. I was going to suggest a definition, a broad definition of the watershed at the very least. But I like Michael's even broader definition of it is the town. This is the town's resource. The town has put a lot of time and money and effort into this resource, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Marie. Katie Thompson. No, you're all set? Okay, all right. Tracy.
Hi, Tracy McNaughton, 82 Shore Drive. I do live over at the lake. I've been here for 16 years now. I am a member of the Lake Wyola Association. I just want to really highlight the fact that the lake is a great pond, so it's open to the general public. It's not, it doesn't belong to any specific organization. It doesn't belong to those of us who live at the lake. It is a community resource and beyond. I think that and beyond use is very important. We can't restrict access to it. We can't restrict people coming in to vote from outside and coming to the Randall Boat Launch. And so I think, I'm in complete agreement with Michael that we need, there are plenty, I know plenty of people because I work within the town. I clean houses in town, and I know lots of people who come and swim here every single day, and they don't live at the lake. We have conversations about the lake all the time, and they have their own special unique interests. So, the statement, and I agree with Michael as well, the statement liaison between the select board and the community guide needs to be removed for a little bit of a different reason than Michael, although I guess I would say both. This isn't, our town is a direct democracy. I get to speak directly to you. I do not have a representative that I choose or vote for in between me and you. And that's what LWA, saying that a liaison between the LWAC, should be the liaison. It means that I am supposed to go to them to get to you. That just doesn't make any sense. So I feel restricted by that statement as a resident of the lake. So that's my reason for thinking that shouldn't be there. And I too, I really didn't want to bring anything negative tonight, but I do need to speak truth, and Nori has spoken it, and I'm going to reiterate what she has said. I am a Lake Wyola Association member. I come to the meetings and I'm a year-round resident. The vast majority of people who come to the Lake Wyola Association annual meetings are non-resident folks, seasonal. The vast majority. I'm speaking.
No, we're gonna give Tracy the floor. I understand she might say something. People disagree. Excuse me. Select board, Michael. We are gonna listen to you. You disagree. Please be quiet. She's got the floor. We gave all of you the floor.
I haven't interrupted you. And so I don't feel that my interests are represented by the Lake Wyola Association, although I continue to try to bring them to them, and I continue to keep my membership. And I'm hoping that may change. And I feel that the changes that are being made, that are being proposed here by Haley and the select board will, in the long run, add to that, to bring the residents and non-resident community together. Shrewsbury, and the Lake Wyola Association can become an organization that is participatory rather than divisive.
Hey, anyone else online want to make a comment before I turn to someone else here? No? Okay. Is there, and Mark, you wanted to go to the end. I'm gonna see if anyone else wants to make a comment. Okay. Does anybody else want to make a comment in person here or an additional comment? Go ahead, Shirley.
I just want to say two quick points. The Lake Wyola Association owns 3 private beaches around the lake. It also has the association hall. And even though we're a nonprofit, we do volunteer to pay taxes on that land to help the town. So the Lake Wyola Association has financially done things beyond what they needed to do, just to make that clear. And the other thing is, it's disappointing for me as a Lake Wyola member, and also I'm on the board, that the board works very hard, very, very hard, to do as much as we can with the time that we have, with the money that we have. And yes, there are people in this room that might be disappointed with the Lake Wyola Association. But there are also people in this room that are extremely happy with the association. We try to bring community. We have functions that invite everybody and anyone. A good example is we had the water carnival on July 4th. It was not restricted to Lake Wyola Association members. It was open for anyone and everyone. And we had well over 40 children there, parents there, and the kids had a ball. There was no expense, it was free, and the Lake Wyola Association does lots of activities like that. And I'm sorry to hear that we have some people who are not happy with the association. Because in all honesty, if you see and hear and watch what we do, with the help of so many people who just want to make that lake a happy place. And I just hope that if you've heard that it's not a good organization, come and visit us and come and see what we do and watch, because I think you would be very surprised at the low budget we have and the extreme amount of work that we do that makes for this wonderful community.
Thank you, Sharon. Mark.
I just have to make a word of caution for the select board and for Haley in her selection process, whoever's on this committee. The Lake Wyola Advisory Committee has worked hard over the years to maintain universal access to the lake. Everybody's welcome, you know, whether you come out and vote. We strive to not restrict anyone, because that's just not the way we are, right? But over a number of years, there's been attempts to restrict access to the lake. Right? There was the first one in 180 days. You can't use your property over 180 days. There was an attempt by a number of years ago to restrict waterfront usage. Right? You can't do anything within 50 feet of the water. Well, virtually every house is within 50 feet of the water. So that was another attempt at restrictions. It didn't pass, which is fortunate. I hope this isn't an attempt to sort of create more restrictions on the lake. Now, I'm using a follow example. At the 2025 town meeting, right? There is a proposal to modify a warrant, make a bylaw that, in effect, this isn't the exact wording, but in effect, families with kids, grandkids, come to the lake on the weekends because they're working, working families. They can't water ski on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. That was the effect of that we're proposing. That is an unrealistic restriction on the lake. It didn't pass the town meeting, fortunately, but there was 100 votes for it. So there's at least 100 people in the town who want to restrict access to this lake. And I caution the select board and Haley is that when you're picking people, pick people who believe in universal access to the lake and not restricted access to the lake. And what my concerns here is by watering down the votes of the homeowners on the lake, and we increase the probability of creating a restriction on the lake. Thank you. So.
That's some two great things. One, just in responding to that, the lake is open for everybody. And the way you said it, Mark, it sounds like LWAC and LWA extended universal access to people. I'm just saying, that's how I heard it. And I just want to reiterate the fact that we all have access to the lake by definition of being in Massachusetts. If someone from New York can come and use the lake, it doesn't matter. It's universal access. I did vote for that because I actually think that was a constructive conversation at town meeting, that being able to zip around in motorboat all the time, to me, does not make it safe for people who are swimming and kayaking at any speed that they want. So it might please some people, it doesn't please other people. And so the whole idea is to come to negotiated ideas. Maybe you have to tweak them over time. Which comes to my second point, which is for you guys, which is we're not debating whether LWAC is important or not, if it's done good work or not. We're not debating, well, about LWA, if people, come with good intention, if they're good and do work. That's not the debate. The issue is this is town government. You're designing a town committee that works within the construct of town government, how it represents the needs of the town, its residents, and how the government functions. It's not, so the testimonials are helpful, but that's not what we're about. You're trying to say, we need a committee that actually is a committee that's aligned with the way the town works. And how do we design that to have maximum input and to be effective? I think that's what you got to figure out.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, Jim or Aaron, do you have any comments?
No, no. I'm sitting here scratching my head.
No, I think it's all out there. I think it's been a really good discussion.
It was, yeah.
The whole, well, a lot of good arguments, for a lot of different points. Well, it's well done.
No, we appreciate
Yeah.
you all coming and our next steps is to ponder all these and then sit down and have our discussion about where we are headed and what we want, what we're thinking and make some decisions. And I think, I don't know if I speak for both of you, Jim, we don't know what each other very well, but I think we know we're not going to make everyone 100% happy. And so, that is the downfall to a select board position is you can't make everybody happy. So, but we can, work with these comments and work with the charge and work with everything and see if we can come to a better solution, or a better committee. So we appreciate you all. And the work is up to us to figure this out in a way that, works as best as we can in a committee setting. So, yes, Terry.
One final question that I have. It seems you've opened this meeting. Why aren't you prepared tonight to rescind the vote that you took so that you can make, because what you're doing at this time where it's critical for the town to continue working towards like the dam repair stuff that's being led by Elwood. Okay, now you have a dissolved committee that you have to restructure and you're gonna lose about probably 11 or 12 of us that were working on different things. So that there could become a point in time where it could be turned over, or it could just become a standing committee as opposed to an ad hoc. So it seems like you've opened the door to rescind something, but you're not doing it.
Well, the comments tonight, because we had gone about this a different way. Now we have to think about the comments we just heard. I don't know that any one of us are ready just to jump in and make those corrections and talk that
So
through.
at least closing be for the next 3 or 4 months.
I don't expect it to be
You're not
that.
having it, you're not having it today, that exists very.
I don't
That's
expect,
not, that's
no,
not
no,
the
no.
plan.
I don't expect us to be that. It was, say that again?
It's,
Our next meeting's the 21st. So,
well, by the time Fresh had was presented by September. So.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, she said that was just a suggestion for the process based on some of the other work we've done, right? So we can speed it up and we can slow it down in any way that, you know. And we can always add special meetings. We added the one on the 1st, so, you know.
Like if they can put a form for town. We petition by 10 people.
A citizen petition, you can't. There is a citizen petition option for anything in town, actually, and it's been used that way. So, yeah, no, there's always those things, but then that would put it out until May. So, but the intention is not to have this languished and such. It's, you know, but we will think about it and have our discussion and figure out our how to incorporate and come up with a committee that still does the work that LWAC is doing and still that has best membership and you know, that's our work too. Yes.
Could you clarify what is the current status of LWAC? Is it disbanded
That was your vote. The vote was to disband, and then when we did the committee appointments at a previous meeting, the LWAC committee names came in after the 48-hour posting limit. So we did not receive the names in time to make appointments to LWAC in any event. So you could vote to rescind the disbandment, but there would not be a standing committee because the names were not given in time to post for that meeting.
And they've turned in my name if you disbanded the committee that I could be appointed.
That was my fault, because it took me a while to contact everybody and make sure that if they were still wanting to be on the committee. So I was a day late, short. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
And the committee had spent 3 months trying to vote and to recommend something to you related to the membership itself.
So if you did vote to rescind, you would have it, but there would not be anyone appointed until a time when you made that appointment. Or, and obviously you could decide, well, we'll hold off on the appointments until we do the charge, or decide one way, and you could come back at your next meeting and do that. So you do have some options in terms of how you want to handle that.
Thoughts? Tim?
So we could rescind that vote,
Rescind our last vote.
and then, but like you said, there's
There's
nobody
nobody on the committee.
There's no one on the committee. Yeah, so what does?
But it could be next time.
Okay, now I feel.
Michael,
I didn't think you can do that action because it's not on the agenda. It wasn't posted as an action the select board would take, so you have to do it at next meeting anyway.
And you make a good point.
Well, if there was a perceived issue that initially, maybe we should have Donnie here. If there was a perceived issue procedurally with the last vote, I'm not sure that would still hold.
I think if you put it on the agenda and people knew that the select board was considering rescinding their vote, the whole idea is an educated voter would know to attend or not attend. That's
Even
what
if
it's
that was a potential remediation for.
It's still an action of the select board that's significant.
Yeah.
Maybe you should get the.
So maybe you should hold, and then we can hold.
Yeah.
The purpose for rescinding, the one purpose for rescinding would be to allow the committee to continue to work, but.
But we
But we can't have it.
Because it can't work.
So what, I don't see how rescinding really gives you any value.
Functionally do
Doesn't give you any
anything.
value.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Mhm.
No, the agenda, it didn't have,
The agenda had the appointment, and in the course of making a committee appointment, it is standard practice for a select board in any community to say, we'll look at the committee and what it does. So, I mean, I think practically speaking, there is no real difference, right? Because if there's not anyone that's been appointed, it doesn't matter whether or not there was a vote to disband, because there's no one standing on that committee right now. It has to get addressed later. And to Michael's point, there can be a more detailed posting for a future meeting. So
And those of us.
so now the difficulty of open meeting law.
Received our package just prior to when you took that vote, would have been reappointed to the committee if you didn't rescind it. Maybe against open meeting law.
Not in my understanding, because the names came in after the posting. So you weren't officially appointed at that point because you weren't included on the agenda for that evening. LWACs weren't on it because we didn't get that in time. You weren't, so if you got a packet.
All the names are listed on our agenda.
Yeah.
You have to name all the names on the
Open
agenda.
meeting law.
That way, you know,
Past me, excuse me.
That might have been an error, and we can look into that, but.
Right, and that's why they get all the
I
names.
see a great thing on it. Grace, go ahead.
So, in terms of posting names on the agenda, that is true if the select board is reasonably able to know who they will be appointing before the 48-hour deadline. If you don't know who you'll be appointing before the 48-hour deadline, sorry, I'm out of breath. I just had to grab my dog inside. If you don't know who you'll be appointing before the 48-hour deadline, if that information is being presented to the select board at a meeting, then you can appoint people at a meeting. It doesn't need to, the names don't need to be on the agenda. I understand we've gotten a couple knocks on our open meeting law record about this specific issue. But the thing that really matters, the detail that matters for the select board is, did you know ahead of time or not? That's the first thing. The second thing is that, talking to my dog who is currently just scratching on the glasses next to my ear, and it's very distracting. The second thing is that in terms of the agenda posting, you guys can always say that you're going to discuss things that might come up after the 48-hour deadline, and then add a disclaimer on the end of that item on the agenda saying, if, you know, to the extent that if this comes up. So in terms of the posting and in terms of the appointing, you guys absolutely can appoint if you need to. The names have to be on the agendas if you know ahead of time. If you don't know ahead of time and you can explain to the Attorney General's office why you didn't, then the names don't need to be on the agenda. That was what I had to say.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not sure that clarified.
Yeah, I did, it did. I know that I just checked and the names for LWAC were not on that list that we did. The list of names that we did there, so they weren't appointed that night. After the 48 hours.
Question.
Yes.
So can you not just resend vote and go back and say, make a motion to say that the committee continues to function as is until we've made a decision on what the structure should change to?
How was tonight's listed for us? That's the question. So the agenda that that had been out was to discuss, public comment, Lake Wyola and Lake Wyola Advisory Committee, and then the joint committee and discussion with the current ad hoc Lake Wyola Advisory Committee to discuss disbandment of an ad hoc committee to permanent committee, proposed permanent committee charge. When we have a vote, we put what we're gonna vote, potential, and that's always a vote. We can always decide not to vote on it or to vote a different way. But when there is a vote, we always put that we're voting on something so the public knows when we're voting on this, unless it's a contract that we've got in there, or there's a whole variety of things we vote on as general business that we don't always.
And sometimes it doesn't, but it does sound like well, from what I'm hearing is that there's a lot that the board wants to consider.
There,
and yeah. Even though it may not be popular, it is okay to press pause and say that you want to come back to it at another meeting.
Yeah, so I think in light of
Original agenda, the vote. It was
I
going
don't
to be.
remember. I was trying to find which meeting.
It didn't say that there was a vote. That is correct.
That is correct.
But it could come up in the conversation of that committee member.
Yes.
If, because the committee ceases to exist because they weren't appointed at the last meeting, how are we having a joint meeting with that?
Good point, and I just,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, that's
Practice.
Huh?
Practice or what?
Practice, right? So I think for us right now, being with all these questions surrounding particularly, that I think we have to pause and not do a
Yeah.
vote and
I think it's,
stick with what, for right now.
Check with Donna.
Yeah, and check with Donna. You know, I don't think she's on vacation.
No,
So
she's back.
she is, okay. So we'll check with Donna and we'll ask all of these questions. I think that's the best way to go for now.
yeah, I
Just
don't think we want to muddy the water anymore. It's already pretty.
Yeah, I do think that.
That
doesn't exist anymore, we shouldn't be having any more meetings. Is that my correct understanding? You just said,
Yes, for our vote, but also for not being reappointed. So, even if we did rescind, they're still not reappointed.
It's important to, on the other side, to point out that the LWAC meetings traditionally, the appointments have always run this way annually. Not every 3 years. And then second of all, is that meeting minutes are posted publicly and they are open to the public, and that's how this started.
Well, Melissa, have you at your next meeting posted on your
Next meeting, we have 2 weeks, so we have plenty of 48-hour moments.
Can you put on that and to send the action of disbanding LWAC? And in order to let LWAC continue until such time as we made your final decision. So
Yeah, we can do that but right, so we can.
to meet and
Yeah, do that.
while we wait for your decision.
You can do that in a special meeting if you want.
We can always, right, and the select board has a habit and the best practice maybe of sticking meetings in everywhere. So, you know, it is something we can have a one topic meeting for as well.
Earlier than.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
So that'd be a discussion for us with Haley when we get to that point of the agenda. Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. That thought, okay. So I guess that this is where we'll end that, that discussion. Thank you, everybody, for coming and giving us your information. If you think of anything after, email us, so we can add that in our thought processes. I'm not sure you have to close, Mark. If you'd like to get through best practice, you can. Yes.
Thank
Object to it. So you got a cold over the holiday?
Like a second, third section.
No, I don't hold them out, has it?
That's not.
Those.
Fun. I still can't really hear out of it here.
Yeah. I had one of those.
I'm just gonna let everybody have a couple minutes. And my brain still like sense.
Material. Yeah, something stronger.
I do another.
Stronger. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know when I first.
It's good though. It still felt very efficient. It was a good flow.
Great idea.
Well, I figured there, normally we don't have much, but I figured with that volume, it's.
Let's enjoy that whenever we have a topic of how big it is.
I actually I don't have much for a town administrator. It's on the to-do, but not finished list.
I'll be right back.
Told you, it'd be fun. What's that?
No, not technically, but with all people.
You recording?
Yeah.
I already did.
Oh.
Thank you. Nervous, but no.
It was, you made it. Here, actually, Pam Letty, I thought someone found it.
Good municipal benefits.
Maybe just ask that. Guys,
And Sunday, we might have more than 2,000
and I
people.
thought,
If we're lucky now.
no, it's, I know the committee said just as important.
I just looked up, I found this piece of paper. That was the kind of why I just one point I wrote down.
That,
That been on it.
but there's also Patrick.
I was in finance committee. You know, you can always pick up.
Did you skip the 3 term? They had.
I was on it, then I was, so I filled out somebody's
It is
term.
technically.
So I got, that was sort of longer term than,
Yeah.
so I had my own terms after that. So that's how you can do it. So I think I can. Because that was the first.
This your first meeting?
This is.
Congratulations. Wow.
This guy, I want to see the guy.
It's designed as the, it's a tag. Really does.
Do you want to adjourn?
It's designed to be. He's on the cemetery commission.
We can do that. I don't want to eat cake on camera. Okay,
Jeff
we can-
painted it. They just painted the.
Actually, like-
The first one.
Yeah.
It was
Hey,
an
guys.
incredible committee now.
We-
No, no.
we can adjourn our meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, no, we have not. Okay, we have to officially, okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
We do, you got nothing to say for your administrator?
No, she's.
Administrative.
I think I said it.
Toasted.
No one wants to hear.
Second.
Second, okay, all those in favor?
Stalker, aye.
Well, tonight.
Big piece O'Neill, like, don't sing way too loud.
Oh, what's the